For so long, we've thought of Alzheimer's as a one-way street, a devastating, incurable decline. But what if someone claimed they could not only stop it, but actually reverse it? Well, today, we're going to unpack the science, the incredible hope, and the serious controversy behind something called the Bredesen protocol. So who's the person at the heart of all this? This is Dr. Dale Bredesen. He's a neurologist and a researcher. And through his best-selling books, he's made a claim that is, frankly, revolutionary. It's captivated millions of people and, well, it's also drawn some pretty sharp criticism from the wider scientific community. So what's the big idea here? Are we really talking about the end of Alzheimer's as we know it? Let's get into it. This quote from Dr. Bredesen, it really hits you, right? It cuts right to the core of his message. He's essentially saying that thing everyone says is impossible, I see it happening. This is a statement of just radical hope, and it's what's given so many families a reason to believe things could be different. Okay, so that's the big promise. But how does he claim to do it? Let's take a look at the actual method. It's called the RECODE protocol. RECODE, as you can see, stands for reversal of cognitive decline, and the core idea here is pretty revolutionary. Instead of seeing Alzheimer's as a single disease that needs one silver bullet drug, Dr. Bredesen sees it as a network problem. Think of it like a roof with 36 holes. You can't just patch one. The protocol is designed to find and fix all the things contributing to someone's cognitive decline, whether that's inflammation, toxins, or metabolic issues. Now, to make this whole thing easier to grasp, it's built around these 7 pillars, the Bredesen 7. You've got targeted nutrition, exercise to get blood flowing and boost the brain's ability to rewire itself, which is called neuroplasticity. Then there's sleep, stress management, brain training, detoxification, and finally, a targeted supplement plan. It is, a full-on lifestyle overhaul. At the very heart of the nutrition part is this thing called the KetoFlex 12-3 diet. Basically, it's a mostly plant-based diet that's also mildly ketogenic. The goal is to create what's called metabolic flexibility, which is just a fancy way of saying you're training your brain to run efficiently on 2 types of fuel, sugar, which is its normal fuel, and ketones. And the 12-3 part? That means you fast for 12 hours overnight, and you stop eating 3 hours before bed. It's all designed to fight off inflammation and insulin resistance. All right, so that's the theory. But what about the results? Does this thing actually work? Well, the data that Dr. Bredesen's team has published looks, on the surface, incredibly promising. Let's start with the number that made everyone sit up and pay attention. In one of their first trials, an incredible 84% of the participants showed actual, measurable cognitive improvement. We're not just talking about slowing the disease down here, we're talking about getting better. That is a result that you just can't ignore. And when they looked at a bigger group of 255 people, the story continued to be pretty remarkable. As you can see, over half saw their memory scores go up. Another 23% held steady. They didn't get any worse. So if you add that up, that's almost 3/4 of the people who either improved or stabilized. That's a huge deal. Okay, this next part is, honestly, it's pretty wild. This chart shows the change in the brain's gray matter over a year. A typical Alzheimer's patient, as you can see, loses about 2.2% of their gray matter. It shrinks. But the participants on the protocol, they didn't lose brain volume. They actually gained a tiny bit. The implication here is just staggering. It's not just stopping the brain from wasting away, it's potentially rebuilding it. Okay, so all of that sounds incredible, right? Almost too incredible. And that's exactly what a lot of other scientists and doctors thought. This is where the story starts to get, well, a lot more complicated. And that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? When somebody makes claims this extraordinary, they need to back it up with extraordinary evidence. And the critics say that, so far, that evidence just isn't there. So to really get why the critics are so concerned, we gotta talk for a second about how science works. Dr. Bredesen's studies are what we call case series. You can think of them as a collection of really compelling stories or anecdotes. The problem is, they don't prove a treatment works because there's no control group to compare it to. The gold standard in medicine is the randomized controlled trial, or RCT. That's where you can really filter out things like the placebo effect and bias. And the Bredesen protocol has not yet been proven in a large-scale RCT. This table, which breaks down a critique from a huge medical journal, the Lancet Neurology, really spells out the problems. So besides the study design, they point out that the published reports are missing a detailed methods section, which means other scientists can't even try to replicate the results. Then there are major concerns about financial conflicts of interest and even the journals where some of the studies were published. And we have to talk about the money, because this isn't just happening in a lab. Dr. Bredesen is the chief science officer for Apollo Health, and that's the company that sells the Recode program. The assessments can cost around $1,400, and the program directs people to buy specific supplements that can run over $150 a month. Critics argue this creates a serious potential conflict between doing good science and running a successful business. So, where does all of this leave us? On one hand, you have these powerful stories and some genuinely intriguing early data. On the other, you have some very serious scientific and ethical questions from the mainstream medical world. How do you possibly make sense of that? I think this is the most helpful way to look at it. Let's separate what everyone agrees on from what's controversial. Over here on the left, you have things that are just standard brain health advice. Exercise, a healthy Mediterranean-style diet, staying social. Every doctor would tell you to do these things. They're low cost and low risk. On the right, though, are the parts that are unique to this protocol and are unsupported by rigorous trials. The expensive and intensive supplement plans, the costly lab tests, and of course, that central claim of reversal. And that's really the bottom line here, isn't it? A huge chunk of what the Bredesen protocol recommends is just fundamentally good advice. The argument isn't about whether eating well and exercising are good for your brain. They absolutely are. The real controversy is whether the full, expensive, complex protocol can actually deliver on that ultimate promise of reversing Alzheimer's. Which brings us to this really tough final question. When you're facing a disease like Alzheimer's, hope is not just a nice thing to have, it's a lifeline. But at the same time, science demands proof to protect people from false promises and financial hardship. Figuring out how to balance the incredible power of hope with that rigorous demand for proof, well, that's one of the biggest challenges we face in medicine today.